Hi friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to explain when and how to use the past continuous tense. What is the past continuous tense? The past continuous expresses an activity that was in progress at a very precise moment or when a shorter event happened. The past continuous tense talks about the duration of an action which was in progress at a very precise moment. Let's look at diagram. The action started earlier in the past and was in progress at a very precise moment or when a shorter event happened. And the action probably continued after a shorter action. For example, he was sleeping when I arrived. He went to sleep before I arrived. For example, he went to sleep at 9 o'clock and I arrived at 10 o'clock. When I arrived, he was sleeping. Or she was washing the dishes. Or John was playing game when his father came home. John started to play game at 11:30 a.m. and his father came home at 12 p.m. When his father came home, John was playing game because he started to play game earlier. When you called me, I was sleeping. I went to bed at 10 o'clock and you called me at 10:30 or 11. When you called me, I was sleeping because I went to bed earlier. The past continuous is sometimes used in both parts of a sentence when two events were in progress at the same time. For example, while I was reading a book, my father was watching a movie. So in this sentence, two actions were in progress at the same time. Reading and watching were in progress at the same time. Or Marina was dancing while her husband was singing. Singing and dancing were in progress at the same time. Or the students were writing when the teacher was explaining the lesson. The teacher was explaining the lesson and the students were writing. These two events, these two actions were in progress at the same time. Okay, let's move on. Past continuous tense can be used with always to show a past habit. When you want to talk about past habit, you can use the past continuous tense. For example, he was always speaking about politics. He was not speaking about something else. He was always speaking about politics. They were always discussing about the plans. They were not discussing about something else, but they were always discussing about the plans. Or Lucy was always asking questions in the class. When she was in the class, she was always asking questions because asking questions was one of her habits. Let's move on. Subjects: we, you, they, he, she, it, and I. Helping verbs: we have two helping verbs in past continuous tense, were and was. Were is used with subjects we, you, they, and was is used with subject he, she, it, and I. The main verbs are used in ing form or the first form of the verb plus ing. For example, walking, washing, working, playing, reading, writing, etc. The main structure is subject plus were or was plus main verb plus object or complement. Let's make some examples using this structure. Positive: subject we, you, they plus were, he, she, it, and I plus was plus the ing form of the verb plus object. We were reading a book, you were reading a book, they were reading a book, he was reading a book, she was reading a book, it was reading a book, and I was reading a book. Let's look at two more examples. I was listening to music when you called me. In this sentence, the subject is I, helping verb was, and the ing form of the verb listening. I was listening to music when you called me. Or they were sleeping at 11:30, etc. Let's move on. Negative: subject we, you, they plus were not. In the previous lessons, I told you that we use an adverb not to make the meaning of the sentence negative. Were not, he, she, it, and I plus was not plus the ing form of the verb plus object. We were not reading a book. You were not reading a book. They were not reading a book. He was not reading a book. She was not reading a book. It was not reading a book. And I was not reading a book. Let's look at some more examples. I was not listening to music when you called me. The sentence is the negative form of I was listening to music when you called me. Or they were not sleeping at 11:30 is the negative form of they were sleeping at 11:30, etc. Interrogative. For example, verb plus subjects we, you, they, was plus subject he, she, it, and I, plus the ing form of the verb plus object. Were we reading a book? Were you reading a book? Were they reading a book? Was he reading a book? Was she reading a book? Was it reading a book? Was I reading a book? See, the helping verbs come at the beginning of the sentence plus subject. Okay, let's look at some more examples. Was I listening to music when you called me? Is the interrogative of I was listening to music when you called me. Or were they sleeping at 11:30 is the interrogative form of they were sleeping at 11:30, etc. Let's move on. How to make contractions. Note, in this tense, we cannot make any contraction when the sentence is affirmative or interrogative. But if the sentence is negative, we surely make contraction with adverb not. We contract was and were with adverb not. Was not becomes wasn't. Were not becomes weren't. For example, I was not studying my lessons. I was not, the complete form, and the contracted form, I wasn't studying my lessons. I wasn't, the contracted form. It is easier and faster to speak. Okay, I wasn't studying my lessons. They were not playing soccer is the complete form, were not. But the contracted form, they weren't playing soccer. He was not working at 8 in the morning. He wasn't working at 8 in the morning. We were not sleeping when you called us. We weren't sleeping when you called us, etc. Let's move on. Rules of adding ing. How to add ing to the verbs. Progressive verbs. Most verbs take ing without any change. We do not change the spelling of the verbs, but we add only ing. For example, speak becomes speaking without any change. Help becomes helping. Walk becomes walking. Clean becomes cleaning. Cook becomes cooking, etc. Verbs ending in e, first drop the e and then add ing. For example, glide becomes gliding. The verb glide ends in e. First we drop the e and then we added ing. Glide becomes gliding. Or arrange becomes arranging. Create becomes creating. Analyze becomes analyzing. Stake becomes staking, etc. Verbs ending in ie, first change the ie to y and then add ing. For example, tie becomes tying. Tie ends in ie. First we changed the ie to y and then we added ing. Tie becomes tying. Or lie becomes lying. Die becomes dying. High becomes highing. Why becomes whying, etc. One syllable verbs ending in CVC letters, double the last letter and then add ing. Now, what are CVC letters? CVC letters are consonant plus vowel plus consonant. If one syllable verbs end in consonant plus vowel plus consonant, first we double the last consonant, the last letter, and then we add ing. For example, set becomes setting. S is a consonant, E is a vowel, and T is consonant. Set becomes sitting. Plan becomes planning. Run becomes running. Cut becomes cutting. Hit becomes hitting, etc. Let's move on. Non-progressive verbs. There are some verbs that we cannot use in continuous tenses. The verbs that describe states, not action, are non-progressive verbs. Stative verbs are non-progressive verbs. State means conditions or situations that exist. For example, non-progressive verbs are know, believe, remember, understand, suppose, doubt, like, dislike, fear, hate, belong, want, agree, disagree, need, matter, sound, wish, etc. There are many types of stative verbs. Let's look at some examples. I remembered my childhood. The past simple tense, I remembered. But it is wrong to say I was remembering my childhood, because remember is a stative verb. We cannot use it in continuous tense. It is wrong to say I was remembering my childhood. Or they liked to play soccer is the past simple tense, and like is a stative verb. We cannot use in continuous tense. It is wrong to say they were liking to play soccer. She wanted to take an English course, but she didn't. Past simple tense. but it is wrong to say she was wanting to take an English course. We understood the lessons. Past simple tense. That's right. That's perfect. But it is wrong to say we were understanding the lessons. Why? Because understand is a steady verb and cannot be used in continuous tenses. Let's move on. Short answers in the past continuous tense. A friend asks you a question. You don't need to answer his or her question using a long sentence or repeating the whole question. For example, he or she asks you, "Were you reading at 10 last night?" You don't need to say, "Yes, I was reading," or "No, I were not reading." You can answer it with a short answer. For example, you can say, "Yes, I were," or "No, I weren't." You don't need to repeat the rest of the sentence. Okay, for example, if the question starts with was, you can answer them with either was or wasn't. If the question starts with were, you can answer them with either were or weren't. But were you reading at 10 p.m.? The answer is different. Yes, I was. No, I wasn't. Because the subject, the pronoun is changed, we change the helping verb. Yes, I was. No, I wasn't. We use was with pronoun I. Yes, I was. No, I wasn't. Or was I sleeping when you left? Yes, you were. No, you weren't. The subject changed, we change the helping verb. Yes, you were. No, you weren't. We change the helping verb according to the subject, according to the pronoun. Okay, let's look at some more examples. The questions and the short answers. Were they exercising in the gym? This question starts with were, and the question must be with were. Were they exercising in the gym? If they were exercising in the gym, yes, they were. If they were not exercising in the gym, they weren't. Were we working at 7 a.m.? Yes, you were. Or no, you weren't. Or was she cooking when the guests arrived? The question starts with was and the answer is with was. Yes, she was. No, she wasn't. Was he walking when it began to rain? Yes, he was. No, he wasn't. Was it snowing when you got home? Yes, it was. No, it wasn't. Etc. Let's move on. Some more examples. You are taking a bath at 6 a.m. is the positive form. You are not taking a bath at 6 a.m. is the negative form. And were you taking a bath at 6 a.m.? The interrogative form, the question form. She was running when you saw her. Positive. She was not running when you saw her. Negative. Was she running when you saw her? Interrogative. He was driving when his phone rang. Positive. He was not driving when his phone rang. Negative. And was he driving when his phone rang? Interrogative. WH question in the past continuous tense. How to use WH words in the past continuous tense. WH words come at the beginning of the sentence. For example, what were you reading last night? What comes at the beginning of the sentence? What is the WH question? Or where were they going when you met them? Or when were you listening to music? Or who were making noise while we were sleeping? Why was he laughing? Whom were you talking to last night? That's it. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. And click the bell so that you know when I publish a new English video here on YouTube.